Nurses don't walk into combat briefings. They definitely don't challenge a Marine commander. But she did. Camp Raptor, NATO forward base near Helmand Province, Afghanistan. Dust, heat, and the smell of antiseptic clung to the air. Lieutenant Commander Sofia Vega should have been restocking trauma kits, not slipping past two distracted MPs and stepping into a room reserved for Marines, Rangers, and intelligence officers. She wasn't invited. She used her medical clearance, walked straight in, and no one stopped her in time. At the front, Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Hart stood before a satellite image of Qadar Ridge, hostile high ground 15 kilometers north. "Medical stays behind the wire," he said flatly. "We fight. You patch what's left." Silence stretched. A few Marines exchanged looks. This was not a place for a Navy medic. But Sofia's voice was steady. "Sir, almost 60% of preventable battlefield deaths happen before evacuation. If medical teams were positioned forward..." Hart cut her off like a blade. "This isn't a seminar. You weren't trained for frontline combat or strategy." Maybe she should have backed down. Instead, memories flickered. Her father, a former special operations medic, whispering over a map at their kitchen table. "Saving a life means getting there before the bleeding starts. Medicine is useless if you arrive too late." He'd trained elite corpsmen and taught her more than sutures. She met Hart's eyes. Sometimes saving a life means being there before it's lost. The room went still. Not respectful, not admiring, just tense. Hart's reply was cold steel. "Not on my field, not ever. Dismissed." Sofia didn't argue. She closed her notebook and walked out, not in anger, but with terrifying certainty. Minutes later, alarms shrieked across the trauma bay, radio static, screams. "This is Dagger 3-1, ambushed in a wadi north of Qadar Ridge, 2 KIA, multiple critical, running out of ammo." Sandstorm grounding helicopters, reinforcements too far. Sofia wasn't combat personnel. She wasn't cleared to leave the wire. But her hands were already reaching for her gear. "Before we move to part 2, where are you watching from? Drop your country or city in the comments. Let's see how far this story travels. And if this story pulled you in, hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next chapter." The trauma bay at Camp Raptor was chaos. Shredded uniforms, blood pooling on the floor, medics shouting vitals and plasma counts. But Sofia Vega wasn't looking at the wounded. She was staring at the radio. "Dagger 3-1, 2 KIA, 5 critical, enemy has high ground. We're black on ammo." Gunnery Sergeant Mateo Cruz's voice cracked through gunfire and sandstorm static. Sofia finished clamping an artery, ripped off her gloves, and glanced at the operations board. Medical convoy. Wheels up, in 6 minutes. Hart's words echoed. "Not on my field." Her father's voice cut sharper. "If help comes too late, it isn't help at all." She turned to the duty officer. "I'm going with that convoy." The lieutenant blinked. "Ma'am, that road is under fire, and your medical command won't authorize it." Sofia leaned in, voice calm but unshakable. "Then don't authorize it. Just don't stop me." He hesitated, between orders and conscience, then silently stepped aside. Outside, the motor pool was chaos. Engines revving, dust swirling, no commanding officer in sight. Hart was still in the talk. Chaos had opened a gap in the chain of command. 2 MATVs and an armored CASEVAC truck were lined up. Sofia climbed into the rear seat of the lead vehicle. A young specialist tried to protest, then saw her expression and didn't. Inside, her hands moved fast, checking trauma shears, IV lines, morphine, tourniquets. Then her eyes landed on a matte black rifle case wedged under the seat. M110 SAS. Left behind during the last medevac, its owner now in surgery, missing half a lung. The driver glanced back. Commander, that rifle is logged under weapons control. The lieutenant in the passenger seat added quietly, You know you need a custody signature for that. Sofia snapped open the case. Then write this down. Temporary combat retention. I sign full responsibility. The lieutenant's pen hovered, then scratched her name onto the clipboard. He handed the weapon over. You carry it. Your consequences. I carry worse, she said, locking the bolt and stowing it beside her aid kit. Outside, no helicopters, no drones. The sandstorm had killed ISR and grounded air support, visibility dropping under 500 meters. On the horizon, a thin ribbon of smoke rising from Qadar Ridge, 15 kilometers north. Sofia tightened her vest, whispered to herself, This isn't about breaking rules, it's about reaching them before they bleed out. The convoy roared forward, engines screaming across open desert, toward the ridge, toward the gunfire, toward the line where medicine ends, and something else begins. They said she had 10 minutes before that wadi became a grave. Turned out, it was already happening. The convoy could go no further. A natural rock ledge shielded them from direct fire, but beyond that, open ground, no armor, no cover. The air was thick with dust, cordite, and the low boom of distant RPGs. Ridge is 400 meters north, the driver muttered. No drone eyes, sandstorm's scrambled satellite feed. We move past this point. We're targets. Sofia checked the horizon. Black smoke rising from Qadar Ridge, muzzle flashes flickering like fireflies. No gunfire was aimed their way. The enemy was fully locked on the pinned Marines below. That was her only window. I go on foot, she said. You set up triage here. The lieutenant opened his mouth to protest, then saw her eyes. He just swallowed and nodded. She swung the trauma pack over her shoulders, M110 across her back, helmet locked. Then she moved. Low, deliberate, not a hero's charge, but a ghost crossing dead ground. The terrain saved her more than stealth did. Broken limestone, thorny shrubs, and a natural depression that curved along the ridge like a hidden trench. Enemy fire hammered the Marines in the wadi, masking her movement. Every few meters, she froze, timing her steps with machine gun bursts so her footfalls disappeared into the noise. 12 minutes, heart pounding, mouth dry as chalk, the heat pressed on her chest like a weight, not burning, just suffocating. Halfway up the slope, her boot brushed something soft. A body. Lance Corporal Aaron Hale. Face in the dust. Helmet cracked. Blood dried dark beneath him. The kid who showed her a picture of his daughter drawing unicorns yesterday. Her knees almost buckled. She knelt beside him. Closed his eyes with shaking fingers. I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner, she whispered. Not a prayer. A promise. Gunfire snapped her back. She crawled the last stretch, hands bleeding from sharp rock, breath ragged inside her mask. Finally, the lip of the ridge. She slid behind a jagged outcrop, pressed herself flat, and looked down. Cruz's team was trapped in a dry wadi below, 4 Marines barely conscious, blood pooling in the dirt. A PKM nest raked the riverbed. 1 RPG team on the left ridge, another flanking from the east. If they pushed 10 more meters, they'd be wiped out. Sofia unfolded the M110's bipod, rangefinder on, wind 4 knots west, distance 406 meters. Her hands trembled once, then didn't. Her father's voice echoed, not calm, but steady. Precision isn't peace, it's choosing to act through the fear. She exhaled. Crosshairs settled on the PKM gunner, and she pulled the trigger. The first shot didn't just drop the PKM gunner, it shattered the rhythm of enemy fire. A heartbeat of silence, then shouting, confusion. Somewhere below, Cruz's voice crackled through the radio, equal parts shock and hope. Unknown shooter, North Ridge, keep going. Sofia didn't celebrate. She was already cycling the bolt. Second round, she exhaled slow, squeezed, impact. A fighter near the left flank folded to the dirt. She shifted. Breath shaky. Dust storm thickening. Visibility dropping below 300 meters. The wind screamed over the ridge. Third shot, RPG spotter. Fourth, she misjudged wind. The bullet kicked up sand a meter wide. She hissed, wiped sweat from her brow, adjusted 2 clicks right. Fired again. The RPG gunner dropped just as he raised the launcher. Then the enemy adapted. Muzzles swung toward the ridge. Gunfire erupted. Wild at first, then controlled bursts. Rounds chewed into the rocks around her head, spraying stone splinters across her cheek. She flinched, rolled left, low crawling. 3 meters to a new position. Just like her father taught her, never fire twice from the same spot. Her lungs burned, mouth dry, heart thundering so loud it felt like it would echo through the scope. Fifth shot, clean. Sixth, high, rushed. She forced herself to stop, shoulders trembling. Slow down, Vega. Breathe. Don't yank the trigger. Press it. She centered again. Sixth target fell. Seventh, after 2 heartbeats of hesitation, dropped behind a rock. Then movement froze her blood. A Taliban fighter dragging a wounded Marine by the vest, using him as a shield. Range, 412 meters. Wind, low. Heart rate, chaos. 1 breath, just 1. She squeezed. The Marine collapsed to the ground. Alive. The fighter behind him didn't move again. 8. Only 1 left, the squad leader shouting orders, signaling a retreat. She chambered her final round when... Crack! A bullet smashed into the rock beside her head. Stone fragments tore her cheek. A second shot tore through her sleeve, slicing skin and burning like fire. "Sniper, 2 o'clock high!" Cruz yelled. Her instinct screamed run. Every muscle in her body wanted to drop the rifle, crawl back down the ridge. But below, Cruz and his men were lifting the wounded, dragging them across open ground toward the convoy. If I stop now, they die. Blood running down her face, she pressed back to the rifle. Eye blurry, hands shaking so hard she had to force them still. She shifted position again, using a broken ledge to mask her silhouette. Crosshairs found the enemy squad leader. Last breath, last trigger pull. He dropped. The return fire stopped. Not peace, but hesitation. It was enough. Sofia didn't smile. She just exhaled, tasting dust, gunpowder, and blood. The shooting was over. Now came the harder part, getting down there and making sure those men lived long enough for it to matter. 5 days after Qadar Ridge, Camp Raptor was quieter, but not calm. Lieutenant Commander Sofia Vega sat on a medical cot inside the recovery tent. Stitches lined her temple, gauze wrapped her forearm. Officially, she was stable. Unofficially, she was under investigation. Outside, she could hear it. Boots, clipped radio chatter, lawyers from JAG asking for statements. Under normal procedure, she would already be confined, awaiting charges, leaving the wire without authorization, engaging the enemy, using a weapon system outside her MOS. But 8 Marines were alive because she broke every rule that said she couldn't. The tent flap shifted. Rear Admiral Caroline Brooks stepped inside. Silver hair, iron posture. No salute, just a secure tablet under her arm. "The tribunal is delayed," she said. "Not canceled. Delayed." "Why?" Sofia asked. Brooks tapped the screen. "Because this isn't just a violation of protocol anymore. It's a matter for Special Operations Command." She pressed play. Despite sandstorm interference, the drone feed showed enough. 1 figure on a ridge, firing, moving, saving. 14 confirmed hostiles neutralized over approximately 8 minutes. Then, same figure sprinting downhill, packing wounds, performing chest decompressions under fire. Somewhere in the chaos, Cruz screaming into the radio, Doc's here! Hold the line! Brooks paused the footage. Her voice softened, not with pity, but with respect weighed down by reality. Command is split. Half want you court-martialed. The other half is asking why medics weren't closer in the first place. She placed a folder on Sofia's lap. Naval Special Warfare Medical Training Center, Coronado. Official orders. Teach advanced trauma and battlefield medicine. Sofia looked up. And unofficially? Brooks's eyes met hers. You'll train the kind of medic your father wanted to build, someone who can stop the bleeding and the cause of it, someone who walks into hell and gives others a way out. The Admiral left without another word. A few hours later, another figure stepped in. Gunnery Sergeant Mateo Cruz. He didn't salute. He didn't speak at first. He just placed a tarnished coin on her blanket. A challenge coin, Lieutenant Colonel Hart's. He said it's not forgiveness, Cruz said quietly. It's acknowledgement. He watched the feed. He watched us come back alive. Sofia traced the worn edges of the coin. Her hands, steady when firing a rifle, trembled now. Cruz cleared his throat. Doc, you didn't just save us. You made us question why it took this long for someone like you to fight for it. When he left, silence filled the tent, heavy but no longer cold. Sofia lay back, one hand holding the coin, the other resting over her dog tags. Beside her bed, a folded flag, her father's. War had taught her something no textbook at medical school ever mentioned. Some are trained to heal, some are trained to kill. But the ones who can carry both, they're the ones who change who gets to come home.